Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife review for you. Today we have a knife that many of you actually recommended that I pick up. This is the Kizer Odin, and yeah, this is one I got a lot of messages about. A number of you guys saying, Kevin, you will really like the Kizer Odin. Go ahead and get yourself one. And big thanks to Southern Edge Knife Works that I've been able to do that. And so go down in the description, check out the link, and if you use my discount code Sharp Stuff, you'll save yourself 15%. I'm not promising that they have this particular knife in stock, but whether they do or not, you can always find something over there. They've got lots of good stuff. So let's get back to the knife itself. This is, of course, made by Kizer, designed by, and I'm going to say this wrong, I apologize in advance. Ivan for sure is right. Okay, the last name is Briginitz, I think. I'm probably butchering that, so I apologize in advance. Go check him out on Instagram, Ivan B Knife. I should tell you that I posted this knife in a picture with a Wii knife, I think, and he asked what I thought of it, and I said, I like the design. It's a pretty cool knife, but I've heard the designer is kind of sketchy. So I knew that he was the designer, and I was just making a little joke, right? But English is not his first language, so he completely didn't get the joke and was like, what are you saying? Like, are you insulting me, or what's going on here? And I had to sort of apologize and say, hey, I was just joking. So anyway, just a little bit of a language barrier story there that I thought some of you might appreciate. Okay, why did you guys say I would like this knife? Well, obviously, this is a fairly large knife. You guys know I like the larger stuff. I especially like something that's large and slim because it makes it easy to carry, and you can get tons of blade, tons of utility in a fairly easy to pocket package. All right, and certainly this does fit that criteria very, very well. Big, large, slim knife, 8 7/8 overall, so almost 9 inches in length, 3 15/16 on the blade, and it's actually a hair more than that. It's probably like 30 seconds or something. 4 15/16 on the handle, so just a hair under 5 inches there, and 3 7/8 grip area, so almost 4 inches of grip area. So that's a big knife, even for someone with fairly large hands. I wear like a size large glove, and you can see there's still quite a bit of room there. Definitely a great knife if you're a larger guy or someone who, just like me, likes the bigger knives. The weight on this is actually pretty reasonable, so 4.6 ounces. So 4.6 ounces for a 9-inch knife. I'm quite happy with that. There is no milling internally. I know normally we'd cover this on the handle construction part of the discussion, but I'm just kind of showing you. And honestly, I don't think that matters because the knife is already plenty light enough to be comfortable in pocket. And in commenting on the size and weight of this, I will say that it is a large knife that does carry really, really nicely in pocket. This is almost disappears. Like, you kind of know you've got a knife on you, but it's not uncomfortable. It's not thick. It's not heavy. Nothing like that. It just carries really, really well. And then when you get it out and go to use it for something, you've got a good substantial bit of blade there to do whatever you need to get done. All right, and thinking of that blade, let's talk about that next. So S35 VN blade steel, stonewash finish, which you can see quite readily there. Not super thick blade stock. It's actually fairly thin stock, nice and thin behind the edge. Now, one point I will make here is it's sort of a saber-ish grind, modified drop point, modified sheep's foot blade shape. That's definitely a little bit different. And different, I think, in a good way. I've spent a bit of time using this, and I like it quite a bit. The angle here definitely allows you to get some blade in contact with whatever surface you're working on, but you can also come up here and do this kind of stuff. So good blade shape, useful, attractive, kind of interesting. So Ivan, you deserve some credit for coming up with a pretty nice blade shape there that works very well with the knife. As I often say, I always find stonewash sort of washes the angles of the blade out. I always prefer a satin finish because I just find it pops a little bit more. This one is no exception. You can see how, here on camera it's a little more exaggerated, but the blasting on the titanium and the stonewash finish sort of wash away into each other. where with a satin finish you get a little bit more contrast. I'm not going to belabor that point. Just that's one of the reasons I tend to like a satin finish a little bit more. Just aesthetically, I tend to enjoy it. This is a very slicey blade already, guys. They've done a decent job on the sharpening choil. And the grind is fairly high. Now, could it have gone like all the way up to here and kind of finished there and made this even slicier? Yeah, it probably could have, but I think this strikes a nice balance between, durability and toughness and slicing ability. And so in an EDC blade, I think that's pretty good. So, of course, S35VN steel we're all quite familiar with. Great steel, sharpens pretty well, holds an edge really well. Very corrosion resistant, all the good stuff we care about. And so, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this blade. I like the shape, I like the performance. It's a little bit different and interesting, and I like that as well. Especially, I always appreciate when a blade is different and kind of interesting without, how do I say this? Without compromising utility. So still a very useful blade, but different than maybe what we're used to looking at. So I appreciate that. Let's see, moving on to the action here. We've got a titanium frame lock that everyone can tell by looking with a flipper tab, and that's the primary deployment method. You can spidey flick if you're kind of careful. The edges of this milled out hole here are just a little too rounded. If they were actually a little less rounded, you could kind of catch it with the edge of your finger a little bit more easily. As it stands, you can do it, but you got to concentrate on what you're doing. It doesn't spidey flick every time. You kind of got to pay attention. So not really a complaint. Okay, I have no, there's no indication that it was ever intended to be flickable that way. So it just seems like a happy accident that you can still do it. But I will say this, it would have been, since it kind of worked out that way, they could have left a bit of an edge here so that I could catch that. I could catch the edge of this hole with my thumb, or with my finger, I'm sorry, just a little bit better. But let me do it one more time just to show. So you can spidey flick it, just you got to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. In terms of everything else here, the detent is really nice. The liner lock is very accessible. The flipper tab is comfortable. You can, this is one of those knives you can flip over and over again and never have to worry about it. By the way, I'll make this point. Notice how if there's the pivot and the flipper tab is at or just a little above the pivot. And that's something that I haven't commented on in a while, but when you do that with a knife, it definitely makes it more likely that you're going to get good action out of that knife, because it gives you a little more leverage to flip that blade open. So action is quite nice. I guess I should demonstrate here that this is on bearings. It is very smooth. Now I've added a little bit of KPL, and that's really about all that I've done to this, and very, very nicely done. So Kizer has delivered a very nice action here. It is on bearings, of course. Flipper, everything's comfortable, everything's enjoyable. So in terms of lockup and deployment, very, very happy with how this knife functions. Let's talk a little bit about the handle, because the handle is something, again, I want to pay a little bit of attention to and give Kizer some credit for, okay? So instead of your standard just slab of titanium that we so often get from Kizer, on this particular knife, we've got this nice carbon fiber inlay, and it's carried over to the other side. And I do think that's really, really nice. So often we see just a show side that looks like this, and then you flip it over to plain titanium. I love that Kizer was consistent with the carbon fiber over here. I've got that complaint about lots and lots of knives. It just seems to imbalance the knife if you don't kind of carry things over. All right, so I like that. I also like that it's a little bit tactile, and it lightens the knife up a little bit. And finally, as I was saying, I should have made this point a little more overtly a minute ago, but there's so many Kizers out there that just have this flat piece of titanium with a bead blasted finish, and then it's basically they just make these frames in a bunch of different shapes, okay? But this is a nice departure. It's got an extra detail, it's got some milling here and there. They've done a really nice job of giving us something a little bit different than what we're used to seeing from them, and I think that alone is a win, even if there was nothing else good to say. But there is more good to say. It also adds some really nice grippiness to the handle. So when you grab a hold of this, you do really get some good traction from that milled carbon fiber. All right, it's just sort of got this groove pattern in it. Works really, really well. The jimping on the back of the spine is pretty soft. I'm not really catching at all. I can slide up and down on this pretty easily. It's not doing much for me. I mean, it's not taking away anything from the knife, but it could have been just a little more aggressive. The way they've done the backspacer here, let's show you, is good. Although if you're a big lanyard guy, I think you're going to have a little bit of a fight on your hands trying to get some paracord through there. I mean, you'd have to strip it out first for sure. I guess you could use bank line and that would go through a little bit easier. But either way, you know, it's fine. It doesn't take away from the knife, but it doesn't, if you're a huge lanyard fan, I think you're going to have a fight getting anything through there. So in terms of handle construction, yeah, very well done, nicely put together. In terms of feel in hand, again, very nicely done, no complaints, very comfortable. I can cut with it. I've got no hot spots. I've got nothing uncomfortable here. It works really well in, you know, whatever grip I happen to be using. I mean, not that I ever use this grip, but if I happen to for some unknown reason other than a YouTube video. So there you go, guys. Ergonomics are good. Construction is good. I really, and in fact, the choice to go with the inlaid carbon fiber, I think, is a very, very nice choice, especially at the price point. Oftentimes, you know, companies who do like one little extra thing, no matter how small it is, want to really charge for it. And this is actually, you know, a fairly budget-friendly option from Kizer. Not cheap, but not overly expensive either. All right. So let's get to some comparisons. I guess I should point out now before we start getting into some comparisons that this guy goes for like $189, I think, so under $200, and I think that's a pretty good price when you consider, you know, the quality, the extra bit of carbon fiber there, and, you know, overall what you're getting. So let's go ahead and grab some comparisons. First off, just for size, to give you guys an idea of what you're dealing with, there it is next to a Para 2. You can see substantially bigger than a Para 2. There it is next to a Wrap Model 1. Again, these are not competitive options, so they're really there to give you an idea of the size. Now let's hit on some competitive stuff. So obviously there are lots of other Kizers we could look at. Here is the WE Knives Malice. The WE 037 should have been in this video, but I forgot it, and so it's not. But WE is definitely, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a step up. One knife I do have that kind of is in a similar vein is the recently acquired by me BRS Thresher. So this is a collaboration with Gavco. You're all familiar probably with the Gavco Thresher. And the price point is the same on these, which is actually pretty impressive. So titanium frame lock, both have S35 VN steel, and both are like 190 bucks. This is a little bit heavier. All right. And of course, the style is going to be your own personal preference. Hard not to bring in a zero tolerance when we're talking about titanium frame locks. So this is the 0470, but they, you know, I mean, there are lots of good zero tolerances out there that would be, you know, similar, sort of a similar role. The 0462, I want to say, would be similar, sort of a long, lean knife. I hope I'm getting that right, and it's not the 460, but yeah, I think it's the 462. So, you know, always worth considering, and there's some sales on right now on ZT, so they're probably closer in price point as well than they normally would be. What else have we got here? Well, of course, if we're talking about titanium frame locks, it doesn't hurt to bring in the classic Inkosi. Definitely one, everyone's familiar with the size. You know, certainly a little bit different, and the robustness and overall attention to detail on the Inkosi is going to be just a little bit tighter. All right, but the price point is going to be a little bit more as well. Last but not least, one of my all-time favorite titanium frame locks, the Riot Knives Torrent. Let's flip these guys over, and you're definitely going to notice a step up in the level of quality and just the overall level of detail and stuff like that. But again, these guys on the secondary market, you can probably pick up for a cheap price, for not, I don't know. You can probably get one of these for around $225, $250 on the secondary market. Now, The last thing we need to talk about is Kizer on the secondary market. Kizers do not hold their value well. There are a number of reasons for that, but a big reason is there's just a lot of models, and they kind of wash out their brand a little bit by having so many models. The other thing is they do run a lot of sales. So, if you bought this brand new for 189 and then, 6 months later you decide you don't like it and you're going to sell it. Well, normally you'd say, well, subtract 20% and that should give you a reasonable number. So, okay, let's say I'm going to sell this for, I don't know, 145, thinking that that's probably fair. Meanwhile, what you don't realize is that Kizer's running a sale on drop.com, or, they used to have a yearly sale on Blade HQ. They probably still do, or their Kizer store. Over on AliExpress. I kind of hate to say AliExpress, but you can get Kizers there. If you go to the store, then you can be at least fairly assured that you're getting the thing you want. Anyway, because they have this bad habit of running sales, you list this for sale somewhere on Facebook or Blade forums or whatever for 140. Meanwhile, you can buy a brand new one for like 115 bucks or 110 or 105 or whatever. And so that's going to hurt the resale. So if you really like a Kizer, one of the things that I do is I don't rush out and buy Kizers right away. All right, give it a little while, and 6 months or a year later, you'll likely be able to find that model on sale, and then go ahead and buy it. Okay, so Kizer, I apologize for doing that, but my viewers care about value, and so guys, I try to get you the best prices I can. Of course, it does help if you go to Southern Edge Knife Works. At least then you save yourself 15%. And if they have a Kizer sale and you can still use your 15% discount, then you can really get a good deal. And I did confirm, by the way, with Chad that works. And I've also confirmed with Justin in the past, because I've seen some really, really good sales on his website, and said, well, I better check. That's White Mountain Knives. I've checked there and said, hey, I don't know if this works, but it does. So what are my overall thoughts on the Kizer Odin? Well, first of all, guys, you were right. This knife is right in my wheelhouse. I do like it. I've enjoyed it a lot. So carrying this gets, you can get anything done that you need to get done with a knife. And, the blade is perhaps a little thin. I tend to like heavier duty stuff, but honestly, this is great. It's just a great slicer. I've used this around the house. I've used it outdoors. I've used it on sort of utility, cardboard, plastic cutting, stuff like that. It works really, really well. And what more could you ask? It's really comfortable in hand while doing it. It's light to carry. You get lots of blade. You get a nice fidgety action, and all of that for like 189 bucks. So not too shabby, if I do say so myself. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Don't forget to use my links down in the description. I will, again, Kizers are sometimes available on Amazon, and I should promote my Amazon store more than I do. I kind of forget, but I've been trying to put the Amazon store in there because a couple of you guys mentioned it to me. So anyway, I'll try to remember to put that in this description box as well. Again, thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. All that stuff helps the channel. It also helps when you use the links. It's great, great stuff. I enjoy making these videos, and so I thank you for watching and allowing me to keep doing it. We'll talk to you soon.